Hey guys, Manic Mercurian here. So I just started talking and I just realized that I forgot to say I forgot to say that I forgot to give kind of the outline of how this video is going to work. So first I'm just going to say a few things that have been on my mind concerning this channel and just stuff I wanted to say to you guys. Then I'm going to go into the astrology for the near future and kind of talk about what's going on. And so if you just want the astrological update, you can feel free to just skip ahead. Otherwise, just hang around and yeah, so let's get on with it. What's up, guys? Manic Mercurian here. It's been a while since I posted, so I hate it when people apologize for taking so long to post a video at the beginning of their videos, and yet here I am. But I guess now I know the feeling. It's just been too long. I've just been really busy. But anyway, let's move on past that. I just wanted to say a couple things. So I just moved. This is my new place. So, and the sound, there's kind of an echo in here, so I apologize for that. But I'm still kind of working out the kinks here, I guess, in making videos here. But at any rate, I just want to say it's sort of standard now for me to get like 40 views on a video. Sometimes a lot more, like hundreds on a few videos. But I just want to say I'm kind of flattered. I know that's not a lot for YouTube, but to imagine like 40 people just listening to what I have to say, or 10 people viewing a video 4 times each, or whatever the case may be, it's flattering, and it's kind of a lot if you think about it that way. And so what I'm sort of getting at is I feel like I'm like developing a connection to you guys. And I know that sounds weird, but it's really true though. So it's weird with YouTube videos because it's always just one way. It's always just one person channeling out their whatever it is they're channeling out, and then people just consuming it. In a sense, that's how it works, but in another sense, I've been experiencing something a little bit different. I think that there is a sort of back and forth between us, and that it's almost like a relationship. I know that sounds really weird. I know that I'm using a lot of like intimate words, but I really do mean that. Like, it's back and forth for a couple reasons. One reason is because I do get comments sometimes, which I always love. I love the any suggestions you have, or for people to say like, wow, this helped me, or this is accurate. I love any feedback, really, even if it's constructive criticism or even not destructive criticism would be fine. But there is like a exchange sometimes. But another thing that's been happening, which is more powerful even, is that so I'll be working or doing something during the day, and I'll just be daydreaming like I sometimes do, and I'll just be thinking about like Aries Sun Pisces Moon. Like, that's an interesting combination. It's a really intriguing combination for me. It's just so different than what I am, and so has so much potential, but also so much potential to do good or bad. There's just so much energy there and so much grittiness. I don't know, I'll just start daydreaming about something like that, and then that very same day, just a couple hours later, I'll get a comment saying, oh, do Aries Sun Pisces Moon next. And so then that's what I'll do, usually that same day. And there's a synchronicity that's happened at least 2 times, maybe 3 times. But what are the odds of that? I mean, I feel like there is some kind of connection there. Do you know what I mean? I do believe that people are telepathic, and that we just kind of suck at it, or we're not always aware of it. But I think we do soak up each other's feelings and thoughts, even from a great distance away. That we are aware of each other on subconscious levels like that, and so that's kind of what I've experienced. And when that does happen, the information is very rich, and those are some of my best videos with those synchronicities, because I can pull that information out of the subconscious. The daydreaming state is amazing, and I'm always a proponent of that. That we need to regularly go into these slower states of mind in order to obtain wisdom, or to, you take information in and then you integrate it, and it integrates in the subconscious, and then that's where the best stuff is. If you can slow down, and this really good information will come out if you just let it seep out like that, especially if it's maybe pulled out by someone. I don't know, and I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know. Maybe it is just a coincidence, but it happened 2 or 3 times. That I think that happened with another. I forget what other video, but my point is that I do feel like, I don't know. This whole channel thing has been weird. I'm kind of shy, and so this has been. I've been a little bit out of my element with this, but at the same time, I do feel like it's important, and I don't know. There's just something there. So I don't know. I think most of my viewers aren't subscribers, but the subscribers keep growing, and so I don't know. Apparently something I'm doing or saying is attractive to people, or people get something out of the information. I am working on it still too. I'm working on explaining the information in a way that's tangible and digestible, I guess. That's the whole mission here. But at any rate, I don't know. I also put my my channel name on Scruff, and so I don't know if it's just like guys from Scruff that are here, but whoever you are, welcome, and I just hope you'll learn something here, or I don't know, find some entertainment from my ramblings or something. But at any rate, let's look at what's happening in the astrology. There, right? That'll work, sure. Okay, so let's go back to, and I know I'm a little bit late doing this, but I've been busy, okay? And in order to understand where we are and where we're going, we have to understand where we have come from. And so I put this chart on the first day of Cancer, also the first day of summer, the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. So happy first day of summer. Again, I'm a little bit late, but June 21st, Sun enters Cancer, and this is interesting. Cancer is an interesting sign. I say that, and I mean, they're all interesting. Every sign is an interesting sign. But Cancer is interesting because it's a turning point. The solstices and the equinoxes are turning points, and they're very powerful days. They have different meanings. Not only do they begin chapters or begin sections of time, begin stories, they're major points where things are brought into the world, or things maybe leave the world, but I mostly think of things entering the world. And that's why, people who are into like witchcraft or ritual, they'll do rituals on the, like the paganistic or satanic even. They'll always have like these rituals on the solstices and the equinoxes. It's because there's a lot of energy that's readily available during these times, and you can use this in powerful ways. I'm not into like witchcraft per se, but I do recognize that these are powerful days. And with Cancer specifically, there's one sort of theme going on with Cancer that, if you understand it, it tells you a lot about this sign, not only about people who have Cancer in their astrology, but also about this time that we experience at this time of year. The theme is, after this summer solstice, the summer solstice is the brightest day of the year, the day with the most sunlight and the least darkness. And of course, that's very powerful. You can kind of understand why that would be sort of powerful and meaningful. A day to maybe celebrate. So first day of summer that's cool. You're starting. Two sort of things happen. So one thing is that we're beginning the season where there is more daylight than darkness, but with each passing day, there's less daylight than there was the day before. And again, I'm talking about the northern hemisphere. So it it tells you a lot about the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a very fun energy. Cancer just wants to be friends with everyone. I almost think of it as like a dog. Cancer is the crab, and I get that they have the shell and they have the soft inside. They're sensitive, but the Canis Major is very close to Cancer as well. Canis Major and Canis Minor, the dog constellations, and you can kind of compare Cancer to dogs, I feel like, as well. I feel like that would almost be a good animal for Cancer. Cancers just want to be friends with everyone. They just, dogs are usually very friendly. They just want to run up to you and just be friends with everyone. Even the ones that may be a little bit more guarded or more hesitant. I mean, that's like Cancer too, though, with the shell. Try to be more tough, because really they're kind of a softie on the inside, but they'll try to be, tough. And they are tough, but there's this mixture that I was trying to talk about before I got off topic, where Cancers are very optimistic. They're very sensitive. They're very sweet. They think big. I mean, Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, so Cancers do have high expectations, and they're maybe a little bit idealistic. They can get into like fantasy. That's a water sign, so they can be big dreamers. But at the same time, part of them has almost been like injured somehow. That's kind of old soul energy, and Cancer. What I'm trying to say is Cancer is the beginning of summer, which is a happy time. Lots of daylight, lots of readily available energy. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time for fun. It's a time for barbecues, for parties, for vacations. It's a nice, pleasant time. But at the same time, there's something that Cancer is aware of, where they see far into the future. And again, each passing day, there's less daylight. And so Cancer, in a way, is the beginning of the end. It's a hint at fall coming. It's a hint at winter, even though it's the beginning of summer at the same time. And that's where there's these sort of contrasting archetypes in Cancer, or maybe it's one larger archetype, but there's contrast there, where Cancers are very sweet and positive, or optimistic, but at the same time they're kind of pessimistic. They feel like there's some kind of like tragedy or some, and that part of it's that they're very sensitive. They feel like there's something coming where they might be hurt, and part of it's because they're old souls and they've experienced a lot. They've gone through a lot. These are the themes we experience at this time of year, and so hopefully that is understandable the way I'm putting it. But so yes, it is a time of celebration, and it's a time of celebrating the sun's energy. Of course, Cancer is ruled by the moon, but at the same time, the sun is so strong at this time of year, and so yeah, summer is generally a fun time. But that's kind of what we're experiencing, and Cancer is about making connections with friends and family, but it's also very personal, and Cancer can be also very lonely and isolated, but it's also the sign of family. So there's kind of a lot going on there. I mean, if the Cancer is the sign of the moon, and the moon rules emotion, the moon is neither a benefic nor a malefic, because the moon rules emotion. Cancer is the sign of emotion. Is emotion a positive force or a negative force? I mean, it's really all of the above. I mean, emotions can make you feel on top of the world, and they can also make you feel miserable. They can make you feel like you're in the dirtiest gutter in the world, the darkest, worst place. But they can also make you feel, I don't know, exhilarated, or what's the word? Do you know what I mean? And so there's such a range there that's possible to you at this time. And of course, depending on your own sign, you'll experience this in a different way. Cancer may be an easy sign for you to experience. If you're a Cancer, then this is all going to be what you are. You already are all these things, and so you'll feel more alive at this time. You'll feel in your element, because the sun is traversing your own sign. It's agreeing with you. It's saying, yes, like this is your time. This is your time to shine. And similar for the other water signs as well, Scorpio or Pisces. And then just depending on, I don't know, I don't want to get into too many tangents, but just depending on how your sign aspects Cancer, that's how you can kind of see how you'll experience this month, generally speaking, without getting into like specifics. If you want to get into specifics, you can look at the planets and how they're all aspecting you. We can get very complicated here, but just in general, how does Cancer aspect your sign? Like if you have a lot of stuff in Capricorn, then this is the farthest time away from your own time. You're born at the beginning of winter, and now it's the beginning of summer, and so you may feel, exiled or just kind of different. It's foreign to you. You're used to the themes of early winter, which are so different than early summer. It's a 180. But at the same time, there's similar things in opposites. Capricorn has the same but opposite theme going on, where Capricorn follows the winter solstice, and so it's one of the darkest times of the year, along with Sagittarius, which is also very interesting. But the winter solstice is the darkest day of the year, but it's something to be celebrated, and a lot of it has to do with the origins of Christmas, is because you set all these lights on Christmas. You're celebrating the light returning, because yes, and again, the winter solstice isn't exactly on Christmas, but it's very close. On the winter solstice, yes, it is the darkest day of the year, but it's also something to celebrate because it's a turning point, and from every day after that, for all of winter, there's more and more light each day. Well, and for spring, for that matter, until you get to the summer solstice. So Capricorn also has that same thing where they're also very optimistic, but also kind of pessimistic. They can be but it's almost backward in a way. So Cancer, I feel like, has this, like, their main mode would probably be more optimistic with a shade of cynicism or pessimism. Capricorn would be, their main mode would be pessimism or cynicism, but they have a shade of optimism, or maybe optimism deep down. They're extremely resilient, but so is Cancer. They're both Cancer and Capricorn are thinking about the future, because that's the whole thing. They follow this turning point where, yes, it is the darkest or brightest time of the year, but it's changing. It's the beginning of something completely new, of light returning or light leaving. Anyway, I've talked way more than enough about that, so let me, my mouse even fell asleep. You probably fell asleep. Anyway, so what I want to say, so let's go forward a couple days here, and I haven't even gotten to, it's June 26th now, and I haven't even gotten to there yet. So let's go forward. So one other major thing happening with the sun entering Cancer, it's leaving the sign of the North Node, and therefore concluding eclipse season. So we had these crazy eclipses, and I can blame my absence on eclipse season, because it was very much affecting my own personal astrology, and so I did have a lot of life changes there. But now we're moving past all that for two reasons. One is that, like I just said, the sun entered Cancer, so it's leaving now, and by the time of the full moon on the 24th of June, sun's at 3 degrees Cancer, moon would be at 3 degrees Capricorn, and so this full moon it's not an eclipse. It's not in the same sign as the nodes anymore, and so this is the first lunation, the first lunar new or full moon after eclipse season, and so it may be a little bit more intense than your typical full moon. I had kind of a weird day on the 24th, just anecdotally, but it's not an eclipse. It's not like life-changing, dramatic, extreme, unless it just happens to affect your chart in a particular way. But for most of us, it's just a full moon. We're moving past eclipse season. Those intense changes to our mobility and our short and long distance travel that we would experience with all these Geminian and Sagittarian themes, most of those changes have happened already. I know some places are still opening up in like July, like Michigan and Canada. I don't know a lot about that, but most of these dramatic changes already occurred, and we're moving into a little bit more normalcy, I would say, for a few different reasons. Okay, so one is that we're leaving eclipse season. Two is that Mercury is direct now, and I found it fitting that Mercury went stationary direct at around the same time that the sun entered Cancer, and so and around the same time as this full moon on the 24th. So again, that just means we're leaving eclipse season and also leaving Mercury retrograde. And Mercury does not go from retrograde to direct in a single day. I mean, technically it does, but it stops at, here, look. So it stops at 16 degrees Gemini and hangs out there for about a week. And so really all this last week, Mercury is intensified. Whenever a planet is stationary, it's intensified. Think about Pluto if you want to understand that more. Pluto's so slow, it's basically always stationary, sort of. and it's retrograde almost half the time, so it's stationary a lot, and Pluto is just always intense. But that's almost a little bit how Mercury is when it, or any planet when it's stationary. It's just kind of intensified because it's not, that energy isn't moving forward or backward, it's just sitting still, and there's something intensifying about that. But Mercury is gradually going forward, especially at the time of the full moon on June 24th. Mercury's still at 16 degrees Gemini, but finally, so now at the time of me making this, it's okay, it's still at 16 degrees Gemini, but it's getting there, okay? It's coming out of its cage and doing just fine. That was so bad, I'm sorry. But yeah, Mercury's, so basically what that means is, Mercury retrograde, when Mercury's retrograde for a few weeks, and it does this about 3 or 4 times a year, we're going backward, we're integrating, things are slower, things are more dysfunctional because the normal pace of things does not work. You need to slow down if possible. I know we have obligations which don't always allow us to do that, but if you can slow down, daydream more, integrate, process, reflect on the past, stuff like that, that's what Mercury retrograde is all about. And it's about paying attention to things that you've been neglecting when Mercury was direct in the pre-shadow. After it stations direct, where it's very intense for about a week, where it's hardly moving at all, and then it gradually begins going forward. And now Mercury still has to go through the area of Gemini in this case, where it had just moved backward. So the way we experience that, we're still going through the themes that we were during Mercury retrograde, but now we're making progress, we're moving forward. We're not so much, going through the process. Like this is kind of the easier part now. You've slowed down and had to figure things out during Mercury retrograde, which can be very difficult. It can be kind of unnatural. For people born with Mercury retrograde, this might be normal to you because you're just all about that. You're just used to that. Good for you. That's awesome. People with Mercury retrograde are cool. They're interesting and different. But yeah, but generally that's the harder part for most people because it's not business as usual. You have to do something different and slower and figure things out that might be challenging or hard. I don't know, but now that Mercury's direct, you've done the hard work, you've figured it out, and now you're implementing these changes. You've figured things out, and now you're moving forward. Okay, so that's what we're experiencing over the next few weeks, or next couple weeks, just while Mercury's still going through that same area that it retrograded over, and then once it leaves the post shadow, especially once it enters Cancer, then it will be more business as usual. Mercury's just going direct. It's not in any kind of pre or post shadow. It's not retrograde. It's just going forward. Then we'll be experiencing more new themes. Also, just kind of anecdotally, sometimes I notice that when planets, I don't know, I almost feel like planets affect the weather, but maybe that's kind of silly to believe. But I would think that once Mercury enters Cancer, it would feel more like summer in most places. But Venus and Mars are pioneering ahead. Mars has been in Leo for a little bit now, for over a couple weeks. I'm sorry, I haven't been following this really closely. And Venus is about to enter Leo, which brings me to my next point. So let's go forward. I'm sorry I'm so scattered. Hopefully this makes sense to you. So June 27th, Venus enters Leo, and I like this. I personally am subjectively biased in favor of Venus and Mars in Leo. I just think it's a fun time. Venus and Mars are both sort of two sides of the same coin. They both have to do with desire and attraction and kind of, your desires, getting what you want or selecting what you want. They are, Mars is ambitious because it's the masculine. It's going out and getting what you want in a sometimes aggressive way. It's, very sexual. Venus can be sexual too, but it's more softer, or it's almost more strategic in a way, because with Mars, there's more energy to just go out. It's like the energy of a sword or a hammer. You just do it. You just I don't know how to explain it. If you want something, you just go and get it. You just go grab it. It's that simple. It's very simple, straightforward, transparent, bold, blunt. Venus is softer. It's more seductive. It's more strategic. It doesn't want to waste energy. It doesn't want to use brute force. It wants to seduce. It wants to bring things to it so it doesn't have to go out and get it. It doesn't want to disrupt things. So it's almost kind of sneaky in a way. Venus is a little sneaky energy. But Venus and Mars both, when they're both together, it can be a lot of fun. Can also get you into trouble just because, again, Venus and Mars have to do with desire. And when any planets are conjunct or even just in the same sign, they're agreeing with one another. They're married or they're close to one another. And so Venus and Mars conjoining, or even in this case just being in the same sign, Venus will pass Mars and conjoin it later. But our desires are more strong at this time, especially when Venus and Mars are both in Leo, because they're in a fiery sign. So in any planet in a fire sign, it's going to be more obvious. It's going to be more bold. It's going to be more transparent. It's going to be fiery. And so with Venus and Mars, both conjunct, both agreeing with one another, excuse me, both strengthening one another, both feeding off of each other's. I mean, it's almost very sexual in a way, just Venus and Mars being together. But especially in Leo, which is such a raw, fiery sign, such an energetic, powerful sign, and Leo can be very sexual. Leo can be very much about desires. I think Venus and Mars both work very well in Leo. Neither are technically in domicile or exalted there, but I've just always thought it's a very strong place for both of those, because Leo is all about being who you are, being proud, it's about being unashamed of who you are. It's about being proud. I don't know how else to put it. And so with Venus and Mars being so much about desire and attraction, and having those be in Leo, just so much about pride and having a fun time, having a good time. Leo can be very vain, but it can also be very generous. And Leo is a sign for family. Leo is still building on and supporting the themes that were initiated by Cancer. Cancer is the first sign of summer. Leo is the second sign of summer. So they both have to do a lot with like family and loyalty and pride in a way. Cancer is more of an introverted version or side of that. Cancer is the moon. Leo is the sun. But yeah, Venus and Mars. What I'm trying to say, I just really like this transit with Venus and Mars going through Leo. It looks like a fun time. It looks like kind of like party energy. It'd be a good time for embracing who you are and just feeling really good and being all about yourself. Maybe being even a little bit selfish or self-indulgent. But it's also a good time for friends, for family, for being generous, for being giving, for being loving. Leo's a very loving sign. It's very emotional in a way. And then I do have to say there's always I don't want to say negative side, but there's always a potential for some kind of challenge there. I would say Leo is one of the easiest energies to work with of the 12 signs. However, each sign has its challenges. One could be overindulgence. Leo is fixed fire, and so fire wants to have fun. It wants satisfaction. It's hedonistic. It is. Fire signs are hedonistic. They're impulsive. They just want to have a good time. They're like, why can't I just have a good time? It's simple. That's what I want. Let's have a good time, and that's great. Yeah, good. Have a good time. That's what life is all about. But with fixed fire, there can be a tendency to want to stay in that party energy, and to not want to let go. There's always an ending to everything, and sometimes you could have a party on Friday or Saturday night, but you need to rest and maybe get stuff done on Sunday and then go to work on Monday. You can't just start drinking or partying and just stay there for days. That's what I've seen some people with Leo placements want to do. They can be kind of addictive personalities because they just don't want the fun to end. So just be aware of that. But in general, I don't want this to be too dark or heavy, because these are very light energies. One other thing I wanted to mention, so just in general during this whole time, like the whole summer, we have a lot of outer planets retrograde. Right now you can see these little red numbers. These little red numbers here are indicating that these planets are retrograde. So Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, the moon never retrogrades, but Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are all retrograde. These are all outer planets. Jupiter is not so much of an outer planet. But all these outer planets, they have to do with like society. They don't affect us on an individual level. They affect us more as a unit, as a society. There's a really pretty sunset right now, but which is probably obscured by all my pink lights. But anyway, so I like the fact that all these outer planets are retrograde because there's been so much change to our world and to society, so much like historical events happening lately. I don't know. I think I've wanted a break. I almost want things to be normal. I wouldn't mind things being boring for a while, and I think a lot of people share that feeling. And I think now is, knock on wood, but I think now is kind of an opportunity for that. With these outer planets retrograde, there's not as much stuff visibly, tangibly happening in the world. Things may be happening behind the scenes, but just in general, this appears to me to be a relatively calm period. And again, things could be happening behind the scenes. There might be stuff going on that we find out about later, but just in general, there's not as much stuff like physically happening right now in society, and that to me, that's kind of a good thing. Enjoy the break, enjoy the period of boringness. And again, everything's a little bit different for everyone, but I'm just talking about as a collective, generally speaking, this seems like a less happening time. The one exception to that would be Uranus, which is direct in Taurus, and so there could still be, so in when we're talking about societal or world events happening for this period, for summer, I would expect to see those mostly in the sphere of like economics, of stocks. There could be economic volatility, with Uranus and Taurus, different values, different commodities that were valued or not valued before may change dramatically during these 8 years that Uranus is in Taurus, and so Uranus is still direct. It's there's major upheavals and changes going on right now in our economy, in our how economics work, how money works, how again what we value, and how resources are managed and valued. And so that is still going on. There could be changes there, but just in general, other than that, I would expect politics to be a little bit quiet right now, and that's, in my opinion, a good thing. And so, yeah, so those are the major things going on right now, and that's pretty much all I've thought about so far. We could go forward though. Let's just see what happens. So after the full moon was in Capricorn on the 24th, and then now the moon is winding down, and so it's the moon was opposite. I'll try to explain these things more. So the sun is down here in Cancer, moon was full in Capricorn on the 24th, and now it's going back and slowly starting to approach the sun, and as it's doing so, it's waning, or in other words, it's getting less and less light. Each night you see the moon, there'll be less light. Once it makes this 90-degree aspect in Aries, it'll be a third quarter moon. So let's just go there. Third quarter moon is a transition. Each week or so, like the lunar cycle is around 29 days long. And so let's just round it to 28 for simplicity. You can break that down into 4 chunks. And so each week there's either a new moon. Well, each week there'd be a new moon, and then a first quarter moon, then a full moon, and then a third quarter moon, and then a new moon again, if that makes sense. And so after the full moon on June 24th, then by July 1st, so roughly 7 days later, then there's a third quarter moon. But this is also very volatile. So sun is in Cancer, moon is in Leo, moon is in Aries, excuse me. So this is almost kind of backward. It's not a super big deal. Third quarter moons aren't as powerful as full moons or new moons, but they do mark a shift, and there's also often frenetic energy, chaotic energy. We're more riled up. You'll see this in people born under first or third quarter moons, because they just they're restless, they're anxious, they need to like do something. A lot of them have like ADHD, or they just have to be doing something all the time. And again, there's many pros to that and many cons to that. But that's the energy that we experience with these transits. That can the downside of those transits is that you might feel anxious, you might feel stressed. People, especially I've noticed on first or third quarter moons, children and animals will be more riled up and they'll be up later. They'll, like, I don't know, my cat will just be running around all night for whatever reason. So you especially notice it in kids and children. But yeah, people we might be more anxious, more stressed, but also more productive, more wanting to go out and do something. And it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as it's something worthwhile. So do something productive or do something fun, but just be doing something, because it might be harder to relax on July 1st. Especially with the moon in Aries, which is such a go-getter sign. You're gonna want to do something. You're gonna want to get out and like change something. So it's a good time for making adjustments, for making changes, doing errands, having a party, doing something. It's just not a good time for like relaxing or resting. Okay, so and that's a kind of small thing. It's not like life changing or anything like that, but it's something noteworthy. By July 2nd, I've noticed, Mercury is moving forward now. It's moving away from the North Node, and so there's more of a feeling of normalcy. There's a normal rhythm to things, not so dysfunctional like the last month. Like for most of June, it's kind of dysfunctional, and this is a time of dramatic changes to some extent. Going into July, things are more normal. It's more business as usual. Again, knock on wood. But yeah, and then we also have Venus is approaching Mars, just as the Moon is approaching Uranus and eventually approaching the Sun. So let's go forward a little bit. It almost looks like both of those will happen on the same time. Pretty much. So July 9th is interesting. Actually, let's go to July 4th, since that's a major day in the United States. It looks nice to me. Again, we've got Venus and Mars in Leo, so that's party energy. If people are having parties, having barbecues, having friends over, seeing family, that looks great to me. I mean, and it's great that the Sun is always in Cancer for the 4th of July, because that just seems kind of fitting for, I don't know, for being social, or being with friends or family, with barbecues or even vacations or whatever. That seems great. But also with Venus and Mars in Leo. Again, all that desire, attraction, the wanting to have fun, the pleasure seeking, that seems really great. It seems like a great weekend, honestly. It seems like a great weekend to sort of have a party. Venus and Mars are opposing Saturn, and so that could be a little bit troublesome. I would say you would need to exercise restraint to some extent. So all the stuff is still there that I said. So yeah, go out, have fun, be social, have a good time, go have a party or whatever it is that you do on the 4th of July or on the weekend. But Saturn is opposing, and it's the yin and the yang. It's the hedonism, which is okay. It's okay to have a good time. That's what we come here for, is to enjoy the pleasures of the world and to indulge ourselves. But at the same time, you do need to exercise restraint. Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, it's a much different energy to Venus and Mars basically conjunct in Leo. Venus and Mars are more like younger energies, more vibrant. They just want to have fun in Leo. Saturn retrograde in Aquarius is more constricting. It's more prudent. It's more about hesitation, or what's the word, like rationing, or self-discipline. And so both of these very different energies are at play here, especially around the 4th. And so I would say go out, have a good time, but it's not a time to get totally wasted. Is there really any time to get totally wasted? Maybe, but it's probably not this weekend. You just have to balance those things, I guess, as you always would. But I could see, with that opposition between Venus and Mars versus Saturn, there could be like an accident, or I think in general it looks like a good weekend, but it could be a time where if you overindulge, there could be some negative consequences there for sure. Otherwise, the moon is, it'll be a waning crescent moon. In other words, we all know what a crescent moon is, and then waning means that the light is receding. So that looks peaceful, it looks stable. The moon's also exalted in Taurus, and so that looks really nice. It looks like, overall, I mean, the Saturn thing, Saturn opposing Venus and Mars, it will, we do need to have some constraint. But other than that, it looks like a very pleasant time. It looks like a very good time just to enjoy yourself. The moon is in Taurus, so we're feeling grounded, we're feeling secure. Moon in Taurus is great. Again, it's exalted, so emotionally we're feeling stable. But it's also good for enjoying things. Taurus can be a pleasure seeker as well because it's of Earth. It's of enjoying. Enjoying. It's very sensual. So enjoying good food, enjoying things that we can touch or taste or whatever. Enjoy with our senses, enjoying aesthetics. And so the moon in Taurus and the sun in Cancer are very harmonious together. They're sextiling one another. And in a way, even though the moon is sort of squaring Venus and Mars, I think that they almost work together in, Venus and Mars in Leo are all about having us enjoy ourselves, like I was saying. But moon in Taurus is about enjoying ourselves as well, but in a more grounded and sensual way. And so really, I think this looks really beautiful for the weekend and for the holiday. It doesn't always match up this well. Sometimes on a weekend or a holiday, it'll really not be a good time to party. You should really just lay low. But this isn't like that at all. It looks like a really nice, really good weekend. So, yeah, I say go out, go have fun, go be social, or do whatever is fun for you. And then going forward, so we do have the moon approaching the sun. So the moon is coming around here, going through Gemini, passing Mercury. Mercury is approaching the end of Gemini, so it's about to. It's lagging. It's still coming out of retrograde. It's a little bit hungover, but it's catching up to the pack. Almost approaching the beginning of Cancer, so it'll strengthen the themes of the beginning of summer. Everything I said before of that bittersweetness, where we're focusing on ourselves and our emotions, but also focusing on our family and close friends, our connections. Mercury is about to strengthen that and about to approach the sun. But meanwhile, the moon is rapidly approaching the sun, so we're almost having a new moon. The moon is totally dark at this point. There's no light. But it's approaching the sun, so there's almost a new beginning. Oftentimes, a sign doesn't truly start until the new moon happens there. So yes, the sun entered Cancer June 21st or so, but Cancer doesn't really start until July 9th. Can we get an exact chart for that? There we go. This is really beautiful too. So yeah, we have this new moon July 9th, where, again, it's really beginning beginning Cancer, because the moon and the sun are in agreement, they're aligned, they're married, they're coupled, they're initiating something, and especially in Cancer, which is a cardinal sign. So therefore, Cancer is about initiating. It's about bringing new concepts into the world, new themes, a lot of which have to do with family or emotion, whatever is close to your heart, your beliefs, your family, your close friends, whatever is close to your heart. That's what. It's very personal, and it's very with cardinal signs. There's sort of energy coming out of oneself. So you're initiating something. They're all leaders in their own way. Maybe not so much a direct leader with Cancer and Libra, but Cancer would be the leader of the household, and so there's an initiation there. There's an initiation of beliefs, of emotion, of connections. But these things are all very strong with the new moon in Cancer, especially also because the moon is in domicile in Cancer. So this is a very lunar new moon, if that makes sense. Like, it's a very moon dominant. The new moon is extremely strong in Cancer. So we are feeling very sensitive, very emotional, very, very, Cancer always, it feels what it feels very vividly. And so with the new moon in Cancer, we all feel a little bit like that. We're all a little bit Cancery at that time. And again, is that good or bad? Well, it's both. It's all the above. It's a mixed bag. You're just feeling more of whatever you're feeling, if that makes sense. The highs are higher, the lows are lower. And again, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so it's almost a roller coaster mentality. But at the same time, Cancer is kind of conservative. It's a complicated sign. Cancer can be prudent and conservative, but it can also be a roller coaster ride. It's emotion. Just think about emotion. There's so much. Analyze emotion itself, and that's kind of what you see in Cancer. There's the highs, the lows, the mediums, there's a lot going on, but there's a lot of initiation there as we begin summer. We're still in the early stages of summer here. Meanwhile, Venus is approaching Mars, and they will actually technically conjoin on July the 11th, which is very interesting because on that same day, the moon, you can see the moon is approaching Venus and Mars here. Sorry if I'm not explaining what these glyphs mean so much, but you can see, Venus is here, Mars is there, and the moon is approaching both of those, and so all three will be conjunct. Let's see here. Yeah, look at that. Wow. Okay, not technically at the same degree at the same time, but look at that. So July 12th, Venus, Mars, and the moon all at 18 or 19 degrees of Leo. And so that's very powerful when you get a 3-planet pile up like that, within a degree away. Very much about desire. Everything I said before about Venus and Mars being in Leo will just be intensified by the moon being there as well, because not only are Venus and Mars there, so our desires, our pleasures, our ambitions, what attracts us, how we are attractive ourselves, all those things are powerful because of Venus and Mars being together in Leo. But also the moon is there, and so our emotional state is focused on that as well at that time. And so July 12th I think would be a great time for pleasures, for being hedonistic, but also for being generous, for especially with the moon in Leo too. The moon in Leo is very powerful in a way. Again, there's a connection between Cancer and Leo. They're almost like two sides of the same coin in a way. And so the moon in Leo is very much focused on family and pride, but it's very outgoing. The moon is sort of stable there. Leo's a fixed sign, but it's also fire, and fire is not the most stable element by any means. But again, this looks like a really great time, a really fun time, really fun energy, a good time for like partying, a good time for a lot of things. I mean, fire is so active, and we have 3 planets all in fire like that. You're going to want to go out and do something. Also, Mercury just entered Cancer on that same day, I believe. Yeah, July 12th. So yeah, very interesting. So that does also, so one other thing too, when planets conjoin, it's always a new beginning. Like with the new moon is passing the sun, and so the moon has completed one cycle relative to the sun. Same thing here, the moon has completed one cycle relative to Venus, relative to Mars. Hopefully you're keeping up with me. Same thing with Venus and Mars. Venus has completed one cycle relative to Mars. When they pass one another. And so conjunctions like that are beginnings. All these beginnings have to do with pleasure, have to do with Venus, have to do with Mars, pleasure, desire, attraction. Could be very sexual again, but also about giving, about family, about pride. What are you proud of? Because that's what Leo's all about. It's also about creation. You create something, and it's almost like a part of yourself. That's a lot of what Leo has to do with. So you create a book or a painting, something artistic or creative. It's part of you. You birth that into the world, and it's a reflection of yourself. And so it's almost a part of yourself, and you're proud of it because you're proud of yourself. You're proud of yourself and it at the same time because it is part of you. That's that I think apply that to family, especially if you have a child. Leo is a great time for having a child. I don't know if that's what I meant to say, but Leo is the sign of like children. You can be proud of your children because they're a reflection of yourself. It's something that you created, just as you would an art piece, or just as you would your job in a way. Leo isn't usually associated with work, but your job can be like a creation of yourself if it's something, depending on your line of work, I guess. But what are you proud of? What do you do that reflects who you are? Because that's what Leo is about. And with Venus, Mars, and Moon all there, all conjoining, they're all beginning things there. So beginning new attractions, new desires, new projects that you're creating, new things that you're birthing into the world, new things that are reflections of yourself. Could also be new connections, though. Leo wants to get out and enjoy the world. Fire is all about exploring the world. Think about fire literally. It's expansive. It's just growing. It's consuming. It's greedy in a way, but it's also beautiful, and it's greedy, but it's also generous. Fire consumes everything very rapidly. It's not sustainable. But it's also, it gives us heat, though. It gives us warmth, and it cooks our food. It's very useful. But Leo is the fixed fire sign, and so it's the rapid expansion and the roller coaster ride that you see in Aries and Sagittarius. When you think about the fire element, it's more stable in Leo, which is nice because you can enjoy things for longer. But again, not too long, because you don't want to become an addict. You don't want to, if you, like, we're all here to enjoy the world and to enjoy pleasures, to have, I don't know, good sex. This is a very sexual sign, so don't take it weirdly that I'm talking about this, but it's Venus and Mars and Leo is very sexual. I'll just be honest with you. So it is about those things. It's about partaking, indulging, but it's just, if life is not just about pleasure seeking, though. If you overindulge, let me put it this way: if being a true hedonist, so truly wanting to get the most pleasure in a smart way, you would learn to have moderation, I guess. And maybe that's the Virgo part of me talking, but like, Virgo is the sign after Leo, and it knows what Leo knows, but it also knows constraint, I guess. So it's like, how do we maximize the fun here? How do we have the most fun in a long-term way? I guess that's what you could kind of think about. So it might be easy to be caught up in pleasures, whatever's pleasurable for you on July 12th. But maybe just try to exercise some, not constraint necessarily, but moderation. I think some of the greatest pleasures, great pleasure doesn't have to be, doing some, like, the strongest drug and getting like the biggest rush. Some of the really strongest and greatest pleasures can be just in the things that are slow in life, or things that take time. I think that's something that a lot of us have lost appreciation for, and that we could all benefit from, and that could help society, is learning to appreciate again things that are slow and things that take time. Because if you can experience the nuance in pleasure, it doesn't have to be sex, it could be anything, but experiencing like nature, experiencing nuance there, getting pleasures that are more serotonin based and less dopamine based, it's more sustainable and more rich and more nuanced. And so really, if you're a smart hedonist, those are the things you'd be attracted to. Same with like people. Do you want to just go with whoever's like the flashiest and has the catchiest phrases and who's super charismatic? Because they're probably going to be a psychopath. It's not going to be sustainable. It's if you anything in life that's going to be intensely pleasurable is probably not going to be sustainable. And so I would say definitely go out and indulge, but everything in moderation, including moderation. I think that's an Oscar Wilde quote. I think he's a Virgo rising, which is really telling for that quote. But I do agree with that. Everything in moderation, including moderation. Go out and, I don't know, get drunk if you really want to, and if it's a good time for it. Or go out, and it's okay to maybe overindulge a little bit from time to time, and this might be a good time for that. But I'd say also learn to appreciate the subtleties of life, because that's where some of the greatest pleasures would be. Wow, I just sound like I'm doing this whole like TED talk now. I'm sorry. But anyway, I feel like that's a new beginning on July 12th with that triple conjunction, as well as Mercury entering Cancer. And so I think I'm going to end this video here. But hopefully you got something out of this. I know I've gotten a little bit rusty, like I haven't made a video in a while, but hopefully you like me just rambling like this. Let me know if you, I don't know. Usually I just do audio recordings now, but I just decided to do a video this time. So let me know if there's one you prefer. I don't know if it matters to you, but I never really know how to do these things, I feel like. But so I just kind of do whatever. But at any rate, thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of that. And leave me a comment with whatever. I love the interactions with you guys. And you can also email me at manic.mercurian@gmail.com. But at any rate, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. I'm gonna have to edit this for sure.